Hello, good morning, happy Monday to you. All of you out there, maybe want to riff here, life, the universe, and everything, with the tune that is playing Major Tom. There's a reference to that with our guest today. You can see above me in the screen, Patty, I'm going to say Aluskewicz. Am I okay with that?
Yes, that's a good Polish pronunciation.
Okay.
But, of course, Aluskewicz is the Americanized version.
All right. Well, I'm so pleased to have you here, and this is a kind of a reunion for us, and I am very curious to see where this goes today. So I'll take Peter Schilling out of this, and hope that we don't get the proverbial copyright claim.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Now there's full Patty, and this is Patty and Ryan. Okay. So, Patty, I met you in Charlotte. By the way, I'm Ryan Erickson. If you don't know that by now and you're watching this, that's I feel bad for you, or maybe I feel good for you. So Patty and I met in Charlotte, North Carolina a few years ago as Agile members of the population of Agilists in Charlotte. I have issues with the word community in Agile, but anyway. So we met in Charlotte and have developed a bond kind of remotely since then, had a chance to talk. And you made a recent blog post that kind of, I got the sense that there was something, a new spark, a different spark for you. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe take a minute or two to give the kind of like a little bit of the whole Patty story, and then focusing on the last year or so, and we can go from there. Sound good?
Sure, sounds good. Well, thank you for reaching out to me. I guess in response to that blog post, Ryan. It's been a while, but yes. So we did meet in the Charlotte Agile, right, community.
Yeah, you can say it's okay.
But yes, so before the pandemic, and this is like 4 years ago, whatever it was, right? There were all these in-person meetups that we were attending in the Charlotte vicinity, right? So that's kind of where we met. I was newer to the Agile space. In a formal way, let's say that. I had just kind of landed my first official Scrum Master role. And I felt like a fish out of water because I had such a different career experience up until that point. And I guess I made some assumptions as to what everybody else's career experience was, meaning everybody was part of the software community forever and ever, in all of the banks here in Charlotte, and I was not. So I wasn't sure how I was going to fit in there. But I was encouraged by some of the really amazing people that live here in Charlotte, and I'm still here in Charlotte. There's the crown. Amazed by the way they reached out and it brought me into the fold. And as I got more comfortable there over the weeks and the months, I eventually started speaking, making my rounds, speaking at all of the groups, and even in some co-working spaces. I started setting up my own talks. And that's where I started having people reach out to me for help with Agile training. And I'm like, I'm just a random person. But
well, the training thing, I think, speaks to your background a little bit. So
yeah. So, but to kind of rewind before that, prior to entering the Agile space here, I was a small business owner for many years. And that's kind of where I dipped my toe into software development. My background is science, is geology, is education, is public and Montessori teaching. So I spent my formative career years in those spaces, and then ultimately left teaching. And I've spoken about that in some of the meetups that I've did talks at, but left, opened a business with somebody that I was married to at the time, and went on that journey from like napkin stage till I finally exited 8 years later, having seen this business be in the red, and working with coaches and consultants to help us grow through those plateaus that businesses typically need to break through in order to be successful. But anyway, so I was doing all sorts of things, and collecting all sorts of data because I'm a data head, and looking for bottlenecks in our customer journey. And we hired software people here in Charlotte to help us design software to track all the things that were our business, and nothing at the time existed. So I was put in charge of that project, and no, I didn't do any of the coding. That's what we hired the developers for, but I really did all of the rest of it. So all the bits and pieces here, to make a long story short. Sorry, Ryan.
That's okay. Hey, this goes where it goes. Right?
But like, I put all these pieces together, and then I had to have the courage to leap into the Agile group here.
You can say, we can talk about that later. That was kind of my community.
So right. Anyway, so like, that's where we met, and that's where I was in the space of just joining the Agilists here in Charlotte. And then I kind of made, like a lot of people do, make your way through the banks. I was a contractor, and then I did some consulting on my own. I did some Scrum Master coaching on my own. And now here I've been working with, I guess, a large consulting firm, although I'm not a consultant at this point. And I've been there for like 14, 15 months as of today.
Okay. So that brings us, the work history up to today, kind of at the macro level a little bit, and certainly Charlotte Agilists in Charlotte. I think that's a community. I'll say. I would accept membership in that, I guess. So that's the thing. It's about communities have boundaries, membership boundaries, and what does it mean to be part of a community, and that kind of stuff. That hits a button with me, and I like to talk about it. But the elephant in the room, maybe not even the elephant in the room anymore, is Scrum Masters and Agile coaches are getting fired left and right, and have been for since the Capital One debacle happened.
Right.
And I had a theory at that point that those folks are just Capital One is a different place. They're just absorbing those folks into and just not calling them Agile thing anymore, because Agile is kind of a different fit. But over the past year and a half or more, there's really been some job loss and a reckoning, maybe, and that's happening. Lots of folks are talking about that. I've been involved in several conversations with this whole no such thing as an Agile coach conversation about when we say that Agile, let's be specific about what does that mean, and coaching and all that stuff. But recently you made this blog post that kind of encapsulated the last year or so, I guess, of where you are with what the community that shall not be named, manifesto for Agile software development, whatever it is we call this thing that is developing and morphing into something else, emerging and self-organizing, as all things do when they die. But I would like to go a little bit deeper and have a conversation about that last year, and then maybe what we think about going forward.
Sure. Sounds good. So the way you described, you kind of dropped everything. Okay. Why'd you do it? Why'd you drop everything? Yeah, that's a really good question. That was it was actually a long time coming, and I was resisting and resisting and resisting. I felt that coming on. So that was almost, like literally a year ago to almost the day here, July 1st. I felt it coming on for, I would say, at least a year. And I kind of made reference this, and I have the blog post up here on my second screen, I made reference to this. You scroll a little bit further down, the innovation adoption life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to 2 years ago, I thought about this graph, and I mentioned I reached out to somebody who's very well respected on LinkedIn, and I asked this person what they thought about this. And I didn't really, I felt like I was taking a risk because I didn't know what the response was going to be. I knew this person's really well respected and really, really, let's just say a good person. But and
I don't mind naming names.
No, well, I try to be respectful of names.
I mean, this. Okay, yeah, but either way, this.
Yeah. So, and this person saw this coming too, and we were kind of like, we don't know where things are going, but we definitely see that there was this tidal wave of people that joined. And I think the pandemic pushed us over maybe the edge of this bell curve. But there was a huge swell of people that joined the give me the name, not Agile community.
No, it's fine. It's that became Scrum Masters. That became certified as Scrum Masters coaches.
Bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And I feel like I got onto LinkedIn before that happened, but I saw that wave coming. And I said, I know what's going to happen with the wave. Eventually the wave crashes. So to your point about the Capital One thing, I know there was a big kerfluffle about it on LinkedIn. People were starting to talk about Agile is dead.
Again, as it happened since probably 2003 or 4, maybe. So.
Right. Agile's dead. You know, the world's going to blow up, whatever it is. Yeah. I'm an Aquarius, so I tend to use exaggerative language. But, you know, like Agile we were in this place of reckoning and it was coming. And you know, I thought of this curve, and I'm like, we are approaching this down curve. And I asked this person, I said, when do you think we're going to fall off the cliff? And he said, I don't know. And I felt like we were coming to it really quickly. So with that being said, I also saw this, and I also make mention to this in a blog, just this polarization that was really growing and growing in the Agile space on LinkedIn. And I just got, to be honest with you, tired of it. And I felt like I had defended and defended and defended. I'm like, somebody else can take this mantle.
So what do you see? What was that bifurcation that kind of what triggered you or whatever? It's like, is there the polarity? I think my call it to Chris Vessel, who's a real polarities guy.
Yes.
There's a polarity there.
Yeah.
What do you see those polarities? That's what were you responding to specifically?
There's a number of topics that I listed in this blog post.
I can find it in the background and share it.
Yeah, go ahead. Because it's like public knowledge, right? At this point. I think one of the trigger points for me, and again, this was a couple of years ago, and I felt like I had to take up this mantle, was the whole technical versus non-technical Scrum Masters.
Okay, yes.
And, you know, in being on LinkedIn and posting content and whatever you want to call that person, a content creator, I don't like the term influencer because I'm not getting paid by anybody, but you know, I started to see this debate surface and then it would die down and it would surface again. And I felt like I had to not only defend the people that were coming in that were non-technical, but really play the middle person, so to speak. Yeah. Like we need both. And I think that argument wasn't even quote unquote good enough anymore. I was getting pushback about that. You know, and like I said, this goes around, this conversation went around and around and around. And I finally just threw my hands up and said, I'm not participating in this anymore. I've said all I needed to say about this topic. And then I started to notice it was all these topics that were kind of experiencing the same thing, right? Somebody would post something about, story points are like the devil. Again, this is the Aquarius language. Story points are really evil. They ruin Agile, which, okay, yes, maybe not. I don't know. But like the thing is, then people would jump on the post and make the opposite argument, and it would just go back and forth. And again, it would disappear. And then a few weeks later, the argument would make its rounds again. And I'm just like, I don't want to participate in this anymore. So where do I fit in this larger Agile space? And I couldn't really answer that question anymore. And that's where I just said, I need to take a step back and think about this. And then there's the rise of the robots and the machines taking over our jobs, right? And that whole piece, which I kind of put at the end there. I was like, I need to really meditate, to use a yoga term. I really need to meditate on this. And I took a step back, right? I went on some trips and I got a new job, and I said, I'm just going to learn. I'm going to take some Coursera courses because I'm trying to understand where the world is going. And at about the 6-month mark, I started writing this blog post, and it took me 6 months to press publish, because I'm like, I don't know what the response is going to be to this. And it's not because I can't handle it. It's because I'm to the point where I don't want to deal with it. Because who's going to come along and like backhand me about one of these topics? And I'm just like, I don't feel like arguing with people anymore. I just don't. And in the past year, like I've posted a couple of things, a couple of comments, because I'm trying to dig in to get people to think beyond the surface level stuff that they keep repeating. And every time I like post something, somebody comes along and says, they dig in their heels and defend themselves. I'm just like, oh, I don't feel like getting into arguments in the comment section. I'm not into it anymore, Ryan.
It drains your soul.
Yes.
And again, I'm a Scorpio, so I get hot and cold pretty quick, right? So, yeah. And it's also really, it's really interesting that you came from the side again of the business that you're creating value. You actually have responsibility as a business owner to say, I have ownership here, and I need something. And so an understanding of what the business dynamics are, what business value actually means. It's not something abstract business, and you are trying to get business value out of software, right? So that I think gives you a unique perspective. Just because you weren't a coder doesn't mean that you don't have skills and can't help a software development team do something, right? But the question again, this is part of if you can't, if there's a difference between people who actively, we don't have, I've got the blog post up here. There's a difference between people who actively shun the knowledge, right? Like, oh, I don't need to, I don't want to know. Knowing the technical domain does not help me, right? And that's really kind of BS. I think. I think it's important to know the context you're in, and to have. And what about, and if you're a feeling person, why wouldn't you want to know what this person's expertise is? Why wouldn't you want to honor that? Why wouldn't you want to be with people you respect and know what it is that you respect about them? It boggles the mind. Right. So I'm also like you are, I'm trying to figure out where I land in this whole world of whether I even care about the MASD and whatever, a CSM, CSP, SAFe, whatever. And what are people doing to work together in concert, in harmony, to create value for other people in the world through software or not? And it takes more than just technical expertise, and more than just relational expertise, and more than just financial expertise.
Right.
It and to separate those things and to put them back and forth, I don't think that does anybody any credit. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. Um, what is this world to do with us touchy feelies? You know, what is our value? And I think maybe that's I don't know if that's the question you're asking or we're asking, but that's a question I ask very often when I'm in these discussions. It's like, okay, I understand that you have technical expertise. I will never, nor do I don't want to have that expertise that you have, but I honor it. But
Right.
how can I help you? How can I help you? I want to help you do what you're doing better, So, and then, okay, whoop, shut the ref off. I'll hand it over to you to let you go into that and what does it mean to be a touchy feely if you think that's it. So
And I think that's really the question that's coming up, as you're talking about, well, as you mentioned in the very beginning here, the industry is going through a shakeup. Um, Companies are starting to question what the value is,
yeah,
and they have every right to. I mean, I owned a small business. I understand. Like you have to analyze everything from a financial perspective.
yeah,
Um, and you know, I say, gosh, and it's like I say this with such caution, but when you are a business owner and you have your own financial well-being riding on the fact that the things in the business happen or not,
yeah.
it's a different pressure than working for an organization. So I have a lot of empathy for people that have to make business decisions.
Mm.
And I say I'm hesitant to say that because I don't want to come off as insensitive.
Insensitive to folks who are members of organizations.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, holier than that. I've been a business owner, so step off. I know what I'm doing. You don't.
Or
Yeah.
insensitive to the fact that the market's changing and people really need to pick themselves up and figure out what's next. Nobody's coming to save you.
No. Yeah. Um, Man, nobody's coming to save you. Oof. Wow. Thanks for that on Monday morning.
That's why I'm like, do I really want to come on to this?
But no, but I think that the reality of it is it so it's important to accept and look for the reality of the situation you're in. Our team, if we have whatever, right? Joe, you know Joe Little pretty well, right? I'm guessing you know Joe well. I mean, he does this whole thing about how much does the team cost, like $50,000 per week or whatever, or whatever the number is, but it's you cost money. Someone's paying your salary, right? Yeah. And it's incumbent upon really the team, the group of people. If you're really going to do this the way it ought to be done, there's a conversation that we as a team have. What is the value we're delivering? Who is it for? What is it for? What is that bringing back into the organization? A lot easier when you are on a team that is face to face with the people who are paying you, as opposed to being 5 levels back and, I'm on an infrastructure team. I'm on a back end team. I'm on a UX team. I'm on this team. And where there's such a fluffy sense of real value, tangible value. So yeah, hiring people costs money, and businesses are in business to be in business and continue to be in business. Now we can have an ideological philosophical question about how much profit is too much profit.
Correct.
But businesses die if they don't make any profit.
Right.
Even a nonprofit.
And I've been in that space, right? In the first years in opening a small business, I was in that space, and you have to really pretend that nothing's wrong. Otherwise, your customers won't come back. Because if you're in this state of chaos, like, oh my gosh, the business is failing, people don't want to be a part of a sinking ship.
No.
And that's a lot of pressure on a business owner or business leaders. So the reality of it is a software team does cost money. And if the return on the company's investment is not there for whatever reason, they've got to make some changes. Like, and to your point, we're not talking about like excessive greed and like I'm not even going there. I'm talking about just the program level budget or something, right?
Yeah.
Or portfolio level budget. That gets really, really tricky and sticky when there are human beings involved in that. It's very easy to say, I'm just going to get rid of this like computer equipment or an extra vehicle that my business owns or something.
Yeah.
But it's really tricky when you're talking about people, because nobody wants to be that person that says, I've got to lay off people, because it's like you can't win.
Oof, it would be so easy for me to go into that root cause of all that is that there are so many people at so many levels with so many different interests between the people who you care about and are paying you money to do something, and the people who set the budgets, which are ridiculous in complexity. Okay, I have to get the beyond budgeting thing in. So budgets are awful. But so when there's so much distance between that and that you lose sight of, you're running a business on remote control basically, and that I'm trying to exert control over this, and that by you separate so many levels between being eye to eye with somebody or heart to heart or hearing somebody, that if you have 200 or 2,000 people reporting to you, well, no, they're not. Yeah. The report kind of says that I'm going to communicate with you information, with you. But no, it's that structure is by its nature dehumanizing.
Right.
And I think that's where it's incumbent upon the smallest unit of teams to be able to be eye to eye, be honest and vulnerable and all this kind of relational stuff. Just and to know what value means, right? Because you talk about value out too far beyond the transactional, I'm giving you money for this thing and I'm producing this value for you. The farther you get away from that, the more abstract it is, the easier it is to make decisions that are inhumane.
Right. But so that brings up a good point. Like, as an Agile coach, what am I supposed to do about that? Right. I mean, when you ask about like, what's the value of all the fluffy stuff, I'm going in there and I'm trying to help build relationships between people, help them deliver their software so they can get a bigger return on the investment, right? So I can speak both languages, right? Like, I'm trying to help these people do a better job with each other so they can get their software out and the company can get a bigger return. So we can help save these jobs, however you want to phrase that. But what is the value of that? And that's the crux of where we are, because we have to be able to quantify what the fluffy stuff that we're doing in real term numbers to business people. And it's a skill set that I wonder about whether Agile coaches really have.
The quantification of interrelational skills. We're talking about that. Well, how do we monetize, or what are the metrics and all this kind of stuff? The quantitative measurement of touchy-feeliness.
Right. And it's like, do I even I feel like I can do some good of a job, but we're put in this position. It's like, do we really have the ability to do this? And that's where we are with, is Agile dead, or like, is it going down the slope of doom, that graph? um, how do we do this to show, whether we call ourselves agile coaches or some other term, right? As things evolve,
Yeah.
who is teaching us how to do this? Because if we can't do this, we're not going to be around. But we are exactly what the companies need.
Mm-hmm. Well, they know it when they don't have it.
Yeah.
And people know what it feels like to be. I mean, this whole idea of a toxic work environment, right? That toxicity. Where does that toxicity come from? It doesn't come from bad code. It doesn't come from sloppy engineering practices. It doesn't come from any of those things. It comes from people's response and interaction and understanding of those things. And now, if you neglect all the work domain, the technical work domain, if you neglect it, then again you lose legitimacy. You lose respect. I mean, so how dare I come in as this collaboration expert to wave my magic wand to help you love each other? Let's play the marshmallow game, or let's play, let's draw in crayons on the board, or, oh, you choose a purple marker. Hey, I love it. That's great. But, people who spend their lives have gone to maybe some of the PhD level technologists, they will hold no quarter for that. And you will immediately lose respect, and you can't have trust without respect, right? And all those things that are the lagging in the psychological safety, which is a lagging indicator. You can't control psychological safety, no matter how many times Amy Edmondson wants to say that. You can't control it. What you can control is who you are and whether you're creating this environment of mutual respect, right? And so the question is to be a human relations specialist, like, how do you value that? How do you quantify it? What is that worth?
Right.
I think it's worth, $700 an hour, because if you don't have it, you're so, but that's just my gut feeling about it, that maybe this is what we're talking about, that there is some kind of language. There's some kind of conceptual bridge, I think, to show the value of the there must be some way to quantify what happens on a team when you don't have effective facilitation. What is effectiveness for this team in this place at this time? There's some tools and ways of trying to quantify that I'm interested. There's one that's interested in. It is built up called Net Collaborate. For the Net Promoter Score, the NPS. That this tool is designed to, with survey input, produce a net collaboration score. It's pretty interesting. Well, how well do we collaborate together? Well, the collaboration is poor here, and why is it there? Well, if the theory is, maybe we can say, oh, I can do this collaboration that creates this much more revenue in this. Patty, there must be a way. Tell me the way. Show me the way. Show me the way. As like Styx would say back in our day.
Yes. But this goes back to some of the things that I've talked a lot about, is our education system.
Yeah.
When I say I've talked about it, like I've given presentations about it, I've done, talks at conferences about this. Like, this goes back to, again, being behind the scenes as a teacher for many years, seeing like what's actually going on versus what the public might perceive as going on, or even what people want to believe is going on, right? There's a lot of layers there, but the fact of the matter is we are still training, and I use that word very intentionally, we're still training kids to memorize facts. And at this point, as the internet, I was just talking to somebody yesterday about back in one of my early years of teaching, when Wikipedia came online, right? And of course, the teachers are the last to know. I would have
Oh
kids,
man.
8th graders, turn in papers where I could see the blue links. And I'm like, what is this? Right? But it's like the technology is accelerating in a way that it's not really a good use of our public funds to educate kids to memorize facts anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. If I had the answer, like,
Well, it
I
hasn't
would
been.
go in there and I would do it. But like, the fact of the matter is we are not training kids to do what they need to do
Mhm.
in the real world, which is collaborate with people. And
Yeah.
I've had people, and this is like another sticky thing that I'm going to say here. I've talked about this, and I've had people say, well, in my classroom, we do group work. And I'm like, you know what? I've said the same thing too. What we're doing
Mhm.
is this artificial construction. It's not really problem solving. It's, here's a task. You do exactly this. You do exactly this. You do exactly this. We're going to create this very complicated rubric so we can grade each other. And the person with, I mean, like the gyrations and the hoops, right? That
Oof.
teachers jump through in order to say, look, I did group work. Um, it's not, it's not really what I would now in software teams and agile would consider group work. And I've come out and I publicly said that I was mistaken.
What that about what group work
It's what
was?
we need to do in the real world.
Well, this is, and I think this is a perfect segue into what I think is really cool and unique about the possibilities of what you would bring from your background in Montessori. Because this idea of, as I understand, I didn't go to Montessori school, but I have a deep curiosity about, and I think a minor understanding of it, about that is, it's not directive, not command and control. There's group problem solving, not just you task, you task, you task, you task. It's kind of collective wisdom, or kind of this group cognition and building, that it is learning, not group doing necessarily, but
Yeah.
group learning, so that the doing, if the doing is better independently if you have learned together. And again, I want to, I'll put something in here as well, and I want you to come back with how that connects to Montessori. But my metaphor is music. There's always been music, because this is about when you get together to play a piece of music. Let's say you have 5 people, a quintet. Each of you has a part. You know the notes, right? You have to be a proficient player of your instrument. Based, elementary school, high school, whatever. There are differing levels of proficiency.
Yep.
But you each have an instrument. You know what it sounds like. You know what it should sound like. And then when you get together, you are playing together in harmony and in rhythm, in the right tempo and the right style. Are we playing this to rehearse? So we're playing it for each other so we can, or are we playing it for the teacher so they can observe and correct? Or are we playing it for the audience? All of these different ways of being are okay. That they start with, okay, we are here to play a piece of music in rehearsal, and these are our instruments. So all these constructions that need to be deconstructed a little bit. So say, oh, that's the kind of collaboration I want to grow in my organization, or be a point of light for that, to help others collaborate in that way and share that language of individual mastery and mutual respect and group performance and grace and all those, and shared meaning making, and dare I say love and intimacy, because we are, and this is obviously physical, this is like conceptual,
Right.
and we're creativity, right? This group creativity happens in jazz, happens in improv, happens in cooking. I mean, there's so many different active, collaborative kind of arts that have so many different flavors to them, that I think, and to apply that in a learning environment, in organizational behavior to create commercial value, I think that's kind of the next frontier. And that's what I'd hope to bring from the musical metaphor. Now, and from your side of it, what does that what does that bring up for you in how you conceive of group work?
Yeah. This is something that at the time I didn't quite understand. But, as I've moved through my career and now where I've landed, this has become, I get it now. That's what I'm going to say.
Mm.
So after I graduated with my degree in geology, I went to Harvard. I decided that I wanted to go to the best education program in the country.
Yeah.
And, I guess everybody has their image of what this place is or isn't. But I was really, and I was, I guess, much younger and unaware at the time. But, this is over 20 years ago. But the things that we studied in my Master's of Education program is directly related to what we're talking about here. And I'm like, they had their eyes on this decades ago. It was about, they talked about gender bias and all these topics that are relevant today, right? That you didn't hear anybody talking about decades ago, especially in the realm of education schools. But I took these classes where the instructor, the professor would give us these materials and say, okay, you're going to be put into a group and I need you to solve this problem using these materials.
Mm-hmm.
And they were scientific concepts like density or reflection, or, you're going to be behind a wall here. And then there's somebody on the side of the other wall. And you have to be able to use the mirror and all the other things to see the other person. So it's discovery. And it's discovering scientific principles, theories, laws, whatever you want to call them. There's probably a little bit of everything in there, but it was the absolute antithesis to what then I went into and experienced being a teacher. Again, it goes back to, we have to memorize the facts and we have to get through the curriculum, and the curriculum is like this big and we're never going to get through it, but we're going to have to speed through it. And
is this intermediate, secondary, primary? What level?
This is a middle school.
Okay.
But it's kind of like, we don't have time to do all of this discovery and problem solving. We have to give the kids, we need to put them in groups. They need to learn how to work together, whatever that means. Really, whatever that means. And I say that seriously, because now that I look back, I'm like, that wasn't working together in an effective way. But there's here's a bunch of materials. This is a problem you need to solve, figure it out. And that's wonderful. Great job. You get an A. It's, I'm going to give you a cookie cutter lab to follow. If you don't get the right answer, which is, I'm going to tell you in the end, by the way, enough, right? It's the complete antithesis of what I learned at Harvard. But I tried to do that as best as I could for the 9 years that I was a public school teacher. And I tried and tried and tried, but you were still up against the crux of the standardized tests.
Yeah,
so
and to judge proficiency.
Right. So to peel all the layers back and say, well, we're going to do true group work and learn how to communicate. It's almost like you can't do it.
Move.
When was the I answered that question?
No, you didn't. I mean, that's.
I'm speaking in my mind from years of experience. I don't know if I'm verbalizing this well, but it's like, as a teacher, you can't do it because you have to get through the curriculum.
Well, yeah, you've got
mirror that to our software teams where they have to just get through the user stories to get the stuff out the door because of the deadline, right? And we have to look at the metrics, and if the metrics aren't good, we game them, right? And whether people are being bad or not by doing that, they're trying to save their butts.
They're playing the game.
The public school system. That's the problem.
So can you say that about the school? So I want to make sure I got the full words there.
That's where we learn to fudge the numbers, because the numbers have to come out good or else. or else we get an F on our report card, whatever that or else is.
Yeah.
But that's what we train people to value. And then we turn around and we tell them, well, you now have to go on the software team and you have to produce value for the customer.
Or else.
It's complete cognitive dissonance, right? Or else we're going to get rid of the scrum masters because what's your value, right? So there's all these mixed messages. And I'm like, what do we do with all of this? This is what I've been trying to ponder for the past year. And I don't know, Ryan, if I have the answer. I mean, I show up and I help my teams and I do an excellent job doing so. But these bigger questions, I don't know, because they are bigger than me. They really are.
They're bigger than you, and they are not, right? Because they're about each of us, because I think there's that fractal kind of way that I think maybe it's not fractal because that kind of has a vertical thing, but your geology experience there, this whole living systems and how do living systems grow?
Yeah.
And what is the keys to this living systems growth? This idea of which one to pull on? It's not even about the metrics, but teaching to the test. I know what I was going to say, because it was like this whole idea of, there's an underlying assumption of all this stuff. In the business world, this must work or else you will be sanctioned, you will be fired, you will be bop, bop, bop. This kind of threat of this force, coercion, all the stuff that I rail against about abuse of authority, abuse of power to what end? By folks who they're abusing the power because they want the status to get them the stuff they want. These are human beings who are, God bless them. They're human beings with human needs, right? And they are playing roles within a particular game that set up a particular set of goals, rules, progress tracking, and for many, should have opt-in participation, but lack the opt-in participation. So if you feel like you have no choice in a game that you had no input to the rules and don't know the purpose, that's going to be a horrible game. And that's going to be a horrible game for everybody in the entire system. So this must work or else you will be punished. Well, what's the complete opposite of that?
Right.
This might not work.
Well,
and that's okay. And I'm not going to fire you if it doesn't work. And we're going to do this again. And it's okay. We'll get, it's a whole other conversation about being better together so that we take more at bats. We prepare. It's not about planning the future out perfectly. It's about holding each other accountable to a set of standards that we agree on. And we're going to do as best as I can. We can't control the outcome, but by gum, we can control how we do this together. And it might work, it might not, but we're going to be less wrong than we were before if we keep doing it. That shout out to Kyle, our friend Kyle there. Being less wrong is what it's about. I think so. So this must work or else you're punished. Is that?
Yeah. And you know what? It's not always like that explicit, right?
Insidious.
But it's also a fear. Even if you work in a place that is not preaching that message, for lack of a better way to phrase it, that is not like really super toxic or anything, there still is that fear. Because at the end of the day, it is a business. And again, if you don't have the return on the investment, the business has to make business decisions. that's why I said I don't have the answers to any of this, Ryan. Like,
Well, no, but this
all
is
stuff is going around in my head because I'm like, I show up and I do the best I can, and I do the fluffy stuff. But at the end of the day, there has to be some demonstrative effort that my fluffy stuff helped the software get delivered better. Whatever that means, right?
Well, yeah, and so this is one of the tenets of the whole no such thing as an agile coach is about the hijacking of software development and this practice of software development by professional coaches, the ICF class of coaches, saying, "Oh, each of you have
list there." Did you just see it?
Yeah, again, I don't know we could probably go through the book.
Like I've hit all of them, Brian. So you're bringing it up. Life coaches kill agile coaching. That's awesome.
and that's the one. Okay, so now we have the premise. Okay, so we have one person who's a life coach and says, "I do this and this and this and this," and that. So okay, so instead of typing at each other, why not have a conversation and do the whole steel manning thing with each other and kind of maybe structure conversation, maybe not, maybe it's open space, but having better dialogue about, well, if it's an agile coaching, both of those words effectively mean nothing anymore, because if I'm an agile coach, I'm going to train people to do agile just like they were on a basketball team or football team, or I'm going to coach them as if they were my personal development, partners, and that it doesn't matter whether they develop software better. It's better that they become a underwater basket weaver, but at least, by gum, Patty, can we not be in the same room with folks who see these worlds from different perspectives and have better conversations about it, and it's like, well, I don't have the answer, you don't have the answer, a person M and person E don't have the answer, but a conversation among us with respect, adult behavior, and all this kind of good stuff that happens when smart people get together, assuming smart people other than me, that's where the magic happens. That's the whole point of being human together. That's the music I'm talking about. As much as I love jazz, but you're a great country music banjo player, and you're a fantastic flute player, but and we're both trying to make music together. My music is not better than your music. We can play together. We can do things together. We can figure out what kind of music helps, makes people happy or gives them what they need. And what instrument do we need that's not there? What kind of skill do we need that's not there? Because yes, in this world, the rate of technical skills acquisition ain't gonna slow down, and yet the rate of interpersonal skills acquisition is not speeding up a whole lot. So there's this
declining.
Yeah. So then it is incumbent upon people like you and me, right, who don't have software development degrees, but I don't know how much. Have you done BA work? You've kind of been on that side, but you've done financial work. You've done database, something like. Oh, so you said you're a data.
I'm a data.
You got the data bug.
From the perspective of, I'm a science nerd. Okay. I read scientific journals and I look at the numbers. I don't take anything at face value. I look at data. I interpret it, like I run it over in my head to try to understand it from different angles. But I love what you're saying here, because that is my philosophy. And that's why I said I'm done with this non-technical Scrum Master argument nonsense, because it's not where things may have gone wrong. Is like the non-technical person comes in, they don't understand, software development, and they tell everybody what to do and they do it and they're wrong, right? Because they don't have that perspective. The difference that you and I are talking about here is you bring in somebody like me who brings a different perspective to ask the questions to help the technical people think through the stuff in a way that they've never thought about it before. And this is a broad brushstroke. I'm not trying to say, here I am qualifying what I'm saying, because I'm like, who's going to make a comment about this, right? Sorry. But, you know, it's not that I'm trying to tell any technical person how to do their job. I'm trying to help them think through the interpersonal challenges that they have nowadays. And they need a different perspective because they're heads down in the work.
Well, here's the thing, that those words are very interesting, whatever. Need and want and should. And so from our perspective as listeners, healers, kind of the people who live in the cracks of this stuff, if a team, if a group of professional software developers and analysts and architects, if they don't want your help and they don't think anything is wrong, flying in from on high on Mount Coachus and saying, oh, you need to collaborate better, you know, say, get out of here. I want to ship this code by this day.
But the thing is, then, you know, I continue to build the relationships with the people, and I ask them the questions to help them turn the light bulbs on themselves and say, maybe we are not collaborating as best as we can, right? They have to come to the conclusion themselves, because to your point, me coming in there and telling them they're wrong is going to shut them down. And I'm not interested in doing that.
Well, yeah. And this also, I think this is where whether it's historically or the way that business has developed, maybe this is an American rugged individualist thing. Who said there only has to be one person who's responsible for all that stuff? All of that relationship building and to play that kind of role. Now, some would say, oh, the manager has to be the coach and the expert and all that stuff, and that be the hero manager, come in and save the day. Or hey, we're great because we have a great manager. No. I would say, and I think what's very interesting to I don't know who wants to experiment this, but if you have a pair of coaches for a group of teams, how many teams it is, but you have the sense of someone who's more technical and someone who's less technical, but who have the sense of we can be together and help. Maybe both of us team with two of those teams a while, or maybe there's three teams who can be that. Yeah, but not having, we've got 5 scrum masters, one for each team, and an agile coach, like in this hierarchy of crap, and who are measured in all this different, you know, shoving JIRA tickets around to make my head go crazy. But you don't need as many people as you do, but you need people to actually have the sense of listening and feeling and respect for, Sean or Shauna, show me this code. Where are you? Yeah. Tell me a bit about what's going on. I want to understand because I want to help you. I don't want to see what you're doing so I can tell you you're wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people are expecting that. And
are you saying individual contributors want to be told? Or are you saying?
I'm saying that there's a fear. This is what I've encountered.
Sure.
Right. There's a fear that I'm coming in there to tell them that they're wrong. That fear comes from somewhere. And I'm not saying it's the manager or the company. I'm saying that fear is, I believe that fear is instilled a long time ago.
Oh, you're going to have a consultant come in and fix you. I hired someone to come in and fix you. You're broken.
Our behavior patterns, and this is where we go back to, like, you know, I studied Montessori education, which is not just like playing around in a classroom with toys. It's really understanding the formation of the human being's personality. Where our behavior patterns actually come from. And if you go back and read Montessori's plethora of studies and work back over 100 years ago, I mean, this is the crux of where she built her methodology from, understanding that in the first 6 or 7 years of your life, that's where your behavior patterns get solidified in your subconscious. And unless you do some serious work to, and this is going into like
Oh, go ahead.
another realm,
No,
but it's relevant here.
education
Right? We're not
psychology is fine,
therapists, but this is very relevant. Unless you as a human being do some serious work to understand those behavior patterns, those unconscious things that you do as an adult, and decide whether they're helping you or hurting you. And if they're hurting you, you do the work to change them.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff is back from when we were kids. That's where the behavior patterns develop. So when you're talking about the fear of getting in trouble or, you know, being perfect or whatever the heck it might be that's manifesting, this stuff was solidified in your brain a long time ago.
And that's where the hubris comes in.
Yeah.
A lot of times for a coach who reads, you know, you read enough stuff, you think you know how to therapize to deliver therapy, and that's dangerous. You get to go that deep.
Yeah,
I think there's.
No, I'm not trying to undo people.
I know you're. I know you're not. But
and that's where that behavior is coming from that I'm experiencing.
But you have knowledge and discernment, and you've done the work to study and to know that and say, oh, if I'm witnessing this, there's a likelihood of this happening. Not to intervene on with that individual from a coaching or whatever perspective, but then comes the fiduciary responsibility. You know, I was hired to help this team collaborate better, to help improve the collaborative value delivery flow, whatever else it is. I'm not here to help teach XP. I got somebody to do that. I'm here to help teach Scrum Guide. Go to watch a 10-minute video and you'll see all you need to know about the basics of Scrum and then figure it out, right? Blah, blah, blah. You know, we can argue about that, but you know what I'm saying is that if there's a level of respect and legitimacy and teacherly authority of saying, I have studied psychology. I have whatever certificate in psychological, whatever. I went to school for, but to professionalize or to value the professionalism of hundreds of years of psychological research, sociological research, all this stuff, but not to squeeze it into something that can be taught in a week or 12 weeks even, or as part of a 12-week course, but that there is extreme value for a person who has a wide range of influence and authority within a group to be able to grok the sociological aspects of it, psychological aspects of it, to convene a team of professionals in that domain, in addition to professionals in the work domain or manufacturing, software development, to convene conversations about where is the fear here? Why is the fear here? Right. What are you so afraid of? And someone who has to have the authority in the background to know the risks and of doing that, you know, and to have have sponsorship to do it, which is
right. That's a different story, right? But is the fear real? Where is that fear coming from? Mm-hmm. I've in work that I've done with teams, when I start to dig into asking them questions about, you know, where did that procedure come from? Who made that? It's like nobody knows. It's like this game of telephone. And I think somebody 2 years ago said this is the way that we have to estimate stories. I was like, wait, hold on.
Why?
So y'all don't even know like where any of this came from. So do you think maybe like we should
just stop for a second, think about it?
Stop for a second, think about it. Like what is actually real here? What fears are real here?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the lens that I come from, like helping people examine what's real and what's not, because a lot of times what's in people's heads is not real. And that's human nature.
And then comes then's the question that, okay, so these are topic areas that are vitally important for systems of humans working together in behavior. And and for folks like you and I who are interested in this stuff, who wish to be practitioners of this stuff, it's this dangerous slope we're talking about. That we don't want to be. Are you a coach? You're not really a therapist. You don't. You're not in this. So what do you? But I know I know things are better when you're around, but I'm not exactly sure what happens if you're gone. Maybe. So but the struggle again is, okay, this is a need for a high performing team. If you define high performance as being able to produce valuable outputs that create outcome and impact for people who will generate business, and that you do it in a way that you get better and better and better without killing the souls of all the people around you. Well, that sounds pretty high performing to me. So if my responsibility, I'm hired to help a team improve its level of performance. That's not just in the complicated world of bits and bytes and programming languages. It may be primarily there because that's what people can touch. That's what people can see on their screen and hear in their ears when they, a piece of music. But what is it? I'm not trying to therapize you. I don't want to fix you. I want to help you.
No.
And you're not broken. You're not broken. And so is that okay to say that to somebody? Am I therapizing you? Am I giving you therapy if I tell you you're not broken? If I show you compassion? I don't think so. But
no, you need to understand, not you, but just the royal you. That's what and what the difference between therapy and coaching is. And I wonder how many, and again, I'm wondering because I don't know the answer, but I'm wondering how many people truly know the difference.
Or care.
Right? Therapy has to do with going back and addressing things from the childhood. I don't do that with people. Mm-hmm. Again, like I'm not legally allowed to, I don't go there. But I understand that's what it is, and I understand the fears and the behavior patterns come from that. What I do is I help them address the here and now to help them move forward, and that's coaching. But I don't know if people, A, know the difference, or B, they're actually aware if they are doing it, did that make sense? If they're actually doing the coaching or if they're doing something else, if they're
if they're administering therapy, or if they're doing coaching. And then there's the whole idea of,
I don't know, because I'm not with people, right?
Well, and this comes down to the mandate. What were you hired to do? Did someone ask for coaching in the ICF, the literal sense of I want to be individually coached, right? And this is where I think what you're describing about helping a team figure out where they're going, where they want to go, and is that in line with what they're being paid to do and all that kind of stuff. That is vital, and that's part of a value delivery system. That's part of an ensemble that's doing stuff. I mean, is that, who cares but that role is important. That role to be able to contribute, to be a companion, to be a partner in that team, and to make stuff happen. And it's breaking down those skills more. So I have the skill of the particular facilitation skill. Anyone could run a meeting like this, or some better than others, but that meeting facilitation or graphic exploration or whatever. All these are these kind of components that make up what it is to be a process artist, someone who lubricates the machine. Not machines, not the machinery, but who helps the system. But yeah, I know that's what I want to be. I know I'm not a database person. I dig database every once in a while. I'm writing SQL, whatever. I'm not a coder, never was. But I so appreciate what they do and what they give, and the art It's an art. All those things are art. But how do we help them sing better songs they want to sing, play the music they want to play, and do it in a way that they want to be doing it for as long as they possibly can. Want to. I mean, that, and people call that whatever, Pollyanna. Maybe I'm a lotus eater, whatever. I don't give two craps about that. But you gotta love people.
Yeah.
And you, the royal, you have to are mandated to love people.
Make sure I clarify.
Yeah, no.
Sometimes
Patty, you must love somebody. No, no. It's a bit. I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. That's the game I want to play.
Yeah.
I don't want to play that game of shoving information into someone from the front of a classroom and hoping that they'll check the right box on the proficiency test when they get it.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like, I would rather invite them to learn and help them do it.
Yeah. Well,
great blog post.
I'm still looking at it on my screen over here, and I'm like,
So we've had a long riff on that, which is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to say in this discussion that you have not yet said, a place that you'd like to go?
That's a good question. I don't know. What are some of the other things that were in here?
If there's nothing right now, it's totally okay, and we can say when it's over, it's over.
Yeah. So, no, I think we've talked about a lot of things here. This is, I mean, it's complicated. That's really the word that I want to put here. And, I always want to show up and do my best every single day to serve the people that are in front of me. Yeah. But I also humbly recognize that I am one person in a huge company. And there's a lot of stuff going on that I don't see, I don't hear, I don't know about, I will never know about. So I have to respect that and not put so much pressure on myself to solve the world's problems here. I'm here to help the few people that are in front of me have a better day. Whatever that means.
I'm here to be present with you.
To it that I want to acknowledge, that I think sometimes when Agilists go off in this fluffy realm of saving the world, however you want to phrase that, it's like they don't want to acknowledge that. And I don't know what to say, but I'm just going to put it out there that I'm a good person and I do what I can. And the rest of it the chips need to fall.
I mean, you can only do, and this is about having control. You can only have control of your own actions, right? And the best you can hope is influence over others, and to be good influence, good in however you define good, and to impact them. And which is why trying to impose your will on the future, i.e., planning, is of such limited utility, especially when things are the way they are now. So I'm trying to play a little tune here again, if I can bring it up. Let's see. He's going to come here in a second.
Yeah, I think to go back to Major Tom.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that song. I love that era of music. But I think this is maybe a metaphor of where I'm at.
Yeah.
Kind of floating over everything, trying to just observe how everything interacts and make some type of meaning of it. And in some ways, it is, I mean, it drives you crazy because you do a lot of thinking, right? But it's also peaceful. and kind of stay above the chaos.
And that look from the moon at the earth, how beautiful it is, right?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, Patty. I'm going to turn Major Tom up here for a moment, and
Sure.
I'll go on screen. If you wouldn't mind hanging out with me after, we can kind of debrief here.
Sure.
Wow. Oh my gosh, this is the German version. I had no idea. In any case, thank you so much for the precious gift of your time and attention. And I'm so happy to have been here with Patty, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much.